What's up, everybody? I'm Daniel again,
I'm Ashley.
and today we're wasting our talent with
Ben Barry,
from
Mountain Craft Productions.
Craft Productions. So you video production.
Yes, video production. Yep.
And where are you based out of?
So we're based here in Fairmont. That's kind of where the company started. And then we have an office also in Charleston. So we kind of pop back and forth between both of those. Yeah.
And how'd you get started into the video?
The video stuff for me, I started really young. I was making fake music videos and making short films with my friends. That's what I did on the weekends instead of doing all the other stuff as a kid. Like I would make films. And so it was something that I was interested in early on. And then I think like in high school, somebody was like, have you ever thought of doing this like as a career? And I hadn't at that point. It was just for fun. And so, yeah, right out of high school, I kind of started thinking, okay, maybe I can do this for a full-time thing. And then I went to Full Sail University in Florida. I did their online program, did that accelerated bachelor's degree in 2 years. And then while I was in school, I kind of started the company at the same time, used schoolwork as kind of like an intro to some businesses. And it's like, hey, I need to get some schoolwork done. So, can we do this video for you guys? And it worked out really well. So
cool. So how long ago was that?
Let's see. We started the company. It's almost been 7 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you guys have been around
And
for
you've
a while.
got two different locations where you do this from?
Yeah, so we
That's
started
good. That's
here in
cool.
Fairmont. Yeah, there's one. We're in the in the Omni Associates, the Architects
Okay.
building downtown, and then we have an office in Charleston. Yeah,
Cool.
so yep.
And you work with other people like in your company?
Yeah, so we started out just me, and I did it for like 2 years on my own, and then during that time, I met Justin Litton, which is one of my other business partners, and I started actually hiring him to shoot some of the stuff that we were doing. And then after 2 years, I finally convinced him to become my business partner. So he joined, and then last year in August, we brought on our third partner, and then towards the end of the year, our fourth partner.
Oh, wow.
So there's four of us
Good
currently
for
right
you.
now.
That's great for
Yeah.
7 years of business.
Yeah.
That's really impressive.
Yeah, it's really exciting. And the growth last year was neat because Joe, the most recent addition, he does all the business side of stuff. And that was something we really struggled with because I'm not a business person.
Right.
I'm a creative. And so are Mikey and Justin. And so when we brought Joe on, that's when I really feel like everything solidified for us as a company. It was kind of towards the end of last year because Joe is like, I'll take care of all the business stuff. You guys just go be creative, grow the company. And it was like, oh, this is what I dreamed about 6 years ago. It's finally coming into fruition.
I feel like it's something that a lot of local businesses don't think about because my first business was a music venue / bar, and didn't think about the whole like business side of it, like the paperwork, the taxes, all that
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
So,
I
like,
think that's where a lot of businesses go under really fast
Yeah.
is because they're like, well, I know what I'm doing with like what we're actually doing, but then all the behind the scenes stuff
Yeah.
gets lost.
And there's so many
And if
hats
you don't
you
keep
have
up
to
with
wear.
that stuff,
Yeah.
then you're drowning in it.
Oh, yeah. And even if you keep up with it, it's like taxes.
Yeah.
I kept
yeah.
up with it, but
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was doing. It's like, I hope this is right. I hope the IRS doesn't knock on my
Right.
door.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know. So, like, bringing on that person, that's what he does.
Does anybody
like,
really
that's-
know what they're doing with
I
taxes,
don't
though?
think
I don't
so.
think
Not
anybody
really.
does.
But I pretend Joe does, and then I sleep well at night. So,
Yeah, whenever we started this company, we made sure there's four of us involved, and we made sure that like I take care of like the audio engineering side of
Right.
things. My brother is very business savvy, so he takes care of all the other stuff.
awesome.
The other two guys pretend like they do things, but yeah, they're just there.
you need those guys, cheerleaders.
But so you just recently got away from music or started getting into music?
Music has always been one of those things. Like I said, when I was younger, I was doing fake music videos, so we'd like lip sync popular songs and fake our own music videos. So it's like
Have
always
you released these?
they're. I
Released
think they're
these?
gone. I tried hard to get rid of them over the years. Yeah, I don't think you can find them. Maybe if you dig hard enough. But so it was always something I was interested in. But it was like one of those things like, when you start a business, there's that fun factor, like doing things for fun and then making money.
Right.
And with music, especially, I think over even the past 5 years, the music video like side of things has changed so much to where there's less and less money, even for large artists. So for me, it was just about trying to figure out, take it slow and figure out how do we get into the music side of things slowly. Cause I love it. I want to do music videos. I want to do more of them.
The ones that I saw are great. Like,
yeah.
They're really high quality videos.
Yeah,
Like,
and
they look
that's
really great.
that's something that we enjoy, and also most artists, even the artists that we have worked with, didn't really realize like how into it we wanted to get,
Yeah.
because most of them are just expecting a performance music video, and we're like, no, like let's think about the narrative, let's think about the lighting, like let's really make this a production.
Yeah, that's what was so impressive to me. It's like you're not just watching a video of somebody playing a guitar and singing. Like,
Yeah.
this
to
is
me-
like you're seeing all of the lighting and all
Yeah.
of the everything that goes around
Right.
it.
Yeah, and as a musician, those are so boring. Just
Yeah.
watching a band
Yeah.
like perform. It's like, I get it, like low budget,
Right.
doing stuff like yourself. Like it's hard, but like my band just started filming our music video last
Nice.
month, and it's all story based.
Right.
Like the band is in it,
Right.
but in the background.
Yep.
It's not focused on us at all. So
Yeah.
I like the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me about that story.
Yeah,
So
I think that's super cool. And we actually haven't gotten to do even as much of a narrative music video as I've want to, but we'll get there. But then the other thing that we just started, you watched the Josh Pantry music video. So we collaborated with it's actually a bakery in Charleston called Rock City Cake Company.
Oh yeah, I saw the cake at the beginning.
Yeah, and they make the most amazing desserts, but then they moved to this big building in Charleston, and the owner was like, I want to start, like, have a music venue and start doing bands. So they, like, bake in the daytime and then have rock shows
That's
on
awesome.
the weekends.
Cool.
It's super cool. So she came to us and she's like, hey, I want to do this, like, live performance music video collaboration with you guys. And I had been wanting to do this for years. So basically what we do is we come in and we'll bring in like 3 or 4 bands at a time, and they'll all do a cover of whatever. We'll give them, like, I think 4 choices. They can pick from 4 popular songs to do a cover of that song. And so it's really neat because we get to work with a lot of really local talented artists, but then they also get to kind of put their own flair on a cover so that it's a little more clickable. And it's just, I'm really excited. Josh Pantry was the first one we released.
Okay.
We have another one that's done, and then we're going to film, I think, 3 or 4 more in the next couple of weeks.
Was
So-
that the one where he was like, "Oh, I just expected a camera"?
Yes, yeah. Well, he was a fill-in. So we had a band that was supposed to come in. We had 3 bands scheduled. One of them couldn't make it. And so the owner, Morgan of Rock City Cake Company, she just got on the phone. She's like, hey, Josh, what are you doing? Can you come, like, fill in for us? I really want to do Country Roads as our first release. And he was like, yeah, I just got done working. So he just came down, like, right after work, and he, like, walked in and he was like, whoa, because we had 6 cameras set up, and, like, it's like, it was a whole production. He was like, I was just, like, expecting,
Yeah.
like, 1 camera, and it turned out great. Like, I'm super
Yeah, it was
happy with
good-
the
it was
first
a cool
release.
video.
So it's something I hope we can keep doing and keep working with more local bands. So it's
I'll keep you guys
awesome.
in mind because, like, as far as like our music goes, I like to stick with like the guy that we get, our production from, because we work really well
Yep.
together. As far as like music videos, I feel like, as somebody can, you can have a few music videos that are done by the same person, and they'll kind of have the same similar kind of feel to it.
Yeah, definitely.
But then working with somebody else too, like that way you can view things from like somebody else's
Right,
perspective,
yeah.
somebody that's got a different type of vision
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah,
So,
no, it's really cool to see that. We actually worked with Corey Vance was another music video we did. I think it was at the end of last year, and he's since worked with like 2 or 3 other directors since we did our one, and it is really neat to see because everybody has their own
Right.
own spin on what they do. So I think it's really cool when bands like work with different creatives
Yeah.
and collaborate like that. It's great. So
Yeah.
Yeah, just like any art, you're going to give 10 different artists the exact
Exactly.
same thing to work on, and it's all going to look
Yep.
completely
yeah,
different.
yeah.
Yeah.
So outside of music, what other kind of videos have you been doing?
So what we mainly focus on is commercial production. So we do, we do TV commercials, a lot of social media commercials, obviously, because everything's on social media, web-based videos. That's our bread and butter, like is in those areas. We've done more and more TV commercial production, which has been cool. Like last year we did 3 spots for the West Virginia Lottery. I think they're still airing
nice.
on TV right now.
That's probably pretty big. I mean,
That was our biggest one. That was
Yeah.
that was a pinnacle job for me personally. That was a 5-year goal.
Yeah.
Because in the state, the lottery is one of the larger employers of video
Right.
production in state, and so that was my 5-year goal, was to work with them. So we got invited to bid on 2 jobs last year. Lost the first one, got the second one, and that was our biggest job. It was really cool because we had a crew of 55 cast and crew all together, and they were all West Virginian. So it was
That's
like
cool.
100% West Virginia based cast and crew, and it was amazing.
Yeah,
it was a
that's
real
pretty
dream
awesome.
come true. Like a huge set, working for 4 days. It was really fun.
So what exactly, like, as far as that commercial, because I may have seen them,
Yeah.
but what exactly were those commercials like entail? Like, is it like actors doing things, or is it more just about the West Virginia Lottery?
Yeah, it's all actor based. So what it was, I'm trying to think of the name. of the actual commercial set is proceeds ads. Okay. So what they are is to explain like what the lottery money goes to.
Okay.
So we did one on state park tourism. It was all we went to different state parks and had different actors come and help us, like they were hiking or doing different things. And then we had one that was on the elderly, because they do a lot of support of like meal delivery for the elderly and different programs like that. And then we did one on education, because they fund a lot of schools being built. So each one had voiceover, and then we had actors like acting out the different segments and scenes in each commercial.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was fun. It was a good mix of like, there wasn't any like sound on set. So it was a little less tense, because when you have sound, it's hard. So it was like really neat. We just got to really like get in these scenes and figure out, let's make them the most realistic as possible. And it was a lot of fun.
So what are your like bigger goals? So like you met that goal with doing what's next?
We've been talking about that actually, because after we did that, I was like, guys, we need to, think about like, we need to set new goals.
Yeah,
that was my 5-year goal.
As soon as you
and
reach
we
a goal,
reached
you're
it.
like,
So now it's like, what's
more.
now?
Yeah.
And I think for me personally with the company is just to continue growth. Because I always heard that adage, like, if you can make it 5 years, you have a really good chance of making it. And I thought that was silly at first, but it's definitely true. Like, it takes so long to establish a business. So we made it over that 5-year hump, and now it's like just about being consistent and continuing to see like how we grow. I don't want to grow too fast. I want to be, conscious of what we're doing. And so we really haven't set like specific goals, but that's like one big one for me, is that we do keep growing. Because when Joe came on board, he really solidified us as a company and kind of gave us that base to where now we can start other companies and kind of grow, invest in other companies, which is some things we're looking into. And so it's like, it's not just video production anymore. It's like the whole gamut of growth, like bringing on new people, starting new businesses, investing in other businesses, like everything I've ever wanted to do. So it's really neat. So for me, it's just about like kind of keeping my eye on that prize and just being consistent,
Making sure you stay successful.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because so many people, or so many times you can get stuck in a rut. Even you get the lottery, it's like, I did the 5-year goal, and then you don't like keep pushing.
Yeah.
And for me, it was really important. Like, we met that, now what's next? Like,
Don't get too cocky,
get the
make
bar.
sure
Let's raise the bar, keep going. And it's been really good, because the guys, Justin, Mikey, and Joe, we work really well in tandem together, and we all push each other in different areas. And that's huge. Part of our success is just the culture inside what we do.
The dynamic.
Yeah, and being able to work together, push each other, and we all have different strengths and weaknesses, and they work really well together. So, yeah.
Now, I've had a question whenever you were saying about shooting TV commercials.
Yeah.
It's just always been a personal question of mine. Why do most like local TV commercials suck so bad? Why is the quality so awful? Like all the car commercials and stuff. It's like, what?
So
you exceeded my expectations when I started watching those
That's
videos.
so good. That's great.
It's like,
I was just like, all right, I'm going to watch these videos, see what we're doing today. And I was like, oh, well, these are really good.
Oh, good. That's good to hear. Yeah, so like local commercials. So the thing with, this is something I had to battle when I first started the company, because I thought the same thing. I was like, local commercials aren't that good. I could break into this, be good. But the problem is your average consumer, they have a business, they go to the news stations and they say, hey, we need a commercial. And the news station will either give them cheaper or free production in exchange for airing the commercial.
So basically you get what you pay for.
Right. Yeah. Well, that, and most people look at a video, they look at our video, they look at the news video, and quality-wise they might be different, but they're a video. Right. One way or the other. One's just very much more expensive, and they're getting airtime with one. So we have to fight that with a lot of local budgets. Just that, from the second I started the company, a huge part of what we do is educating clients on why what we do is different, because I thought, they'll be able to notice the visual difference, but that's not always the case. Some people could say, your videos are nice, but not nice enough to justify your price. So it's about like sitting down with the client and explaining everything that we do and why our price tag is what it is. So it's been a huge thing since day one, is just educating the clients on that. But the car commercials, interesting, you mentioned that. So those I definitely thought we'd be able to break in, but they actually like that they're bad. I know that sounds weird, but their number one goal is when you go to buy a car, what are the top 3 dealerships you think of? And for me, the cornier they get, the more that it does pop in my mind.
True,
and if it's nicer, it probably isn't sticking. I might think, oh, that's a good commercial,
It
but
kinda
I'm going to
falls
think of the
in.
Goofy Freedom Kia ads
Yeah.
or the whatever, whatever ad it is. And it's like, they do it for a reason. Like
I
it's
guess, yeah, I
because
guess
it
it's
works.
true.
Yeah. So it's like, I was like, well, then I guess we won't work with dealerships. We'll just let them have that.
Yeah.
So
This just always been like, I always watch, TV and they pop up and I'm just like, why?
Yeah.
But yeah. That's
And on the TV,
really
I mean,
cool.
the news stations, I don't think they're necessarily trying to hit that quality level, but they're just swamped. Like they have,
You need to get it-
I have a friend that has he worked at a TV station and sometimes he was editing like 6 or 7 spots a day.
Oh, wow.
And they were shooting that many in a week or so. So it's like you have like this much time to make something. And usually that doesn't result in something that's very good.
You need to get into those lawyer commercials.
Yes. Yeah. We're trying. We're trying to do some of that.
Those are the ones you need to get into.
Yeah.
Because I don't think they know they're bad.
Yeah.
They are so bad, but I don't think they're aware.
It's slow but sure. Yeah.
So I did read on your Facebook that you don't just have like a pricing list. So
Right.
you work with a client based on what they want.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and that was again another decision early on for us because it's sales wise. I've learned in the 7 years of doing this, it's a lot easier if you have that number,
Right.
Because you can go in, and the idea is once you have that number, it's easier to close the deal. But for us, another thing that goes into our price tag is the custom nature of what we do, and that custom nature. It keeps us from just having a number that we can pull out of our back pocket. Like we kind of have a baseline that we know where we start in our heads, but we need to really sit down with you and figure out, because everybody will ask, how much does a 30-second spot cost? I love that question because it's like, okay, well, I don't know, because what do you want in it? Are we hiring Brad Pitt,
Right.
or are we dropping an elephant out of a plane? Because that's a couple
Is that a
$1 million.
thing? Can you do that?
Probably, yeah, for the right amount of money, I'm sure. So it's like, but that's the thing, like they think only of timing, like
Right.
30-second spot, it's short. Right, but millions and millions of dollars are spent every Super Bowl on 30-second
Right,
spots.
absolutely.
So it's like again, it's one of those things where you just talk with the client and open that kind of curtain and show them like, this is what goes into what we do. There's planning, there's creative, there's sitting down and talking
There's
to
a lot
you.
of consulting.
Yeah, about what they do, because we don't know what our clients do when we first talk to them. So it's about like letting them communicate what they're good at and why they started their business, and then we take all that and give them back creative that is in video form. And so there's just a lot of steps in that, and part of that is just like we just decided early on we're not going to have just pricing. We're going to stick to this kind of white glove custom pricing kind of thing.
I also noticed that when I was looking at your Facebook.
Yeah,
and
and
it's interesting
yeah.
to do it that way instead
And
of
it
just
has-
being like there's a blanket price.
Yeah, and there's been detractors. I mean, there's been times where people are like, well, if you had a price, I might go with you.
Right.
And we just kind of had to press through some of that in the beginning, and now it's like, it's kind of flipped. Now it's like people recognize our quality, and we're starting to get a name, and so that custom pricing makes us seem more luxurious or more expensive of a brand, and that's what we wanted. Even from the very beginning, that was kind of our goal.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
it's very similar to how we have our pricing structured here. We haven't really, we're just now to the point where we're trying to bring in other people to do their podcast
Right.
here. We do have one that we do out of here right now, but that's kind of similar. I was curious about it.
Yeah.
That's why I asked, because it's all based on we've got our, like you said, baseline. Like we won't go below this because
Right.
we'd just be losing
Yeah.
money at that point. But then it's based on what they want.
Right.
essentially.
Yeah. Because there's just so many variables. Because if we had a pricing list sheet, whatever, we'd eat our lunch a lot. Because you walk into a client and they say, okay, we'll pick tier 2, whatever, and then you get on set and it's like, ooh, this is a huge.
Yeah.
We're doing a lot, and at that point, I don't like those conversations that far along with the client about money. I like to have it all up front.
Yeah.
What's your budget range?
Right.
This is what, or we can quote you a price after we talk to you and figure out what you want. And then there's no confusion. Then it's like, what the price is, even if it's a little high, and there's no question moving down the line. Like we know that we've done our due diligence and we've covered everything because we do this on an everyday basis. Like that's all we do. So we know how to set up a video production. So you tell us what you want, we'll give you a price. Everybody's happy, like down the road. There's no like, oh, this is more expensive than I thought, or we have to come back and say, we need more money.
Yeah.
None of that. So it's just, I think it's really helpful.
Yeah.
But just the initial hurdles are tough. Because everybody wants price. That's the first question.
Everybody,
how much is this going to cost?
Everybody wants instant gratification.
Yes.
Everybody wants to know everything up front.
Yep.
Even if it's not the answer
Right.
that they want, they just...
So on top of that, another thing we were talking about growing earlier, we are getting ready to launch another brand. We've kind of launched like a soft launch with it, but it's going to be called Modular Media. And that brand is aimed at that very specific demographic. Because what we found out was as we are growing and we're getting a bigger name, we've kind of grown out of being able to work with small businesses locally because they just don't have a budget. At the end of the day, it's not because they don't want to work with us. It's just because their marketing budget's very low.
Oh, yeah.
And if they overspend, then they wouldn't be in business.
Small business owners usually aren't even paying themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So we were like, we missed some of that because that's where we started was these small businesses. And so we set up Modular Media, and it's going to be a tiered pricing structure to where there's going to be 4 tiers. You're going to know exactly what you get in those tiers. It's going to be very listed out. And then down the road, eventually, hopefully, we're going to build sort of like a marketplace where you can click on the specific things you want, and then you'll get a total based off what
That's
you
great,
like.
yeah.
I need drone, I need voiceover, I need an actor. Boom, it kind of shows up at the bottom and
that's
gives you a
great.
price. So we're working on that because we do want to serve that part of the market because I know there's actually a legitimate part that needs that service. They just can't afford us.
Oh, yeah.
So we're working, that's something that we're working on to kind of expand what we do and who we can work with.
Yeah, I thought that when I was looking this morning because I own a small business, and I was like, man, this would be so cool because social media is a job in itself.
Yeah.
Like, it is hard.
It's a full-time job.
To keep up with Instagram's algorithms and making sure people see your stuff, making sure people are, clicking on your stuff
Right.
and liking and commenting, and like to have something that would be as nice quality as your
Right.
videos would be great for a small business.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I mean, video just rules all. Like video
Yeah.
content is king in whatever social platform you're on. They prioritize video over
Yeah.
anything, and so it's cool for us on our end because that's what we do. But it's also another educating thing with the clients and like explaining like this is really. I'm not trying to just sell you like video is
Right.
so important in what you do and how you market your business. So it's cool. I mean, it's really awesome to see how much it's grown and how much it's going to keep growing. I mean, I feel like I've told Justin that when we got started, like I feel like we hit it at a perfect time. Like the wave was just getting ready to get started, and it's sort of now crashing. And it's cool because we're prepared. We've been doing this
Right.
for 6 years,
You're
and
not
we're
trying
good.
to figure your way into it right now.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I wish we would have started this company way before we did. Because it was like, let's do this podcast company like 10 years after podcasts were like started to blow up.
You
But-
were the first podcast I ever listened to.
well, see?
There you go.
Here
Did
I
something
am.
good.
Yeah.
So what's the craziest thing you've ever been commissioned to do? You see, you've been doing this for a while. You have ever been commissioned to do anything like kind of off the wall that you weren't comfortable with?
No, not really. I'm trying to think.
You will now that he asked.
Yeah, exactly. Now, tomorrow we'll get something. No, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I mean, with commercial video production, it's usually we're pushing the excitement needle
Right.
because it's just boring. And we try to like infuse story and creativity in everything we do. But off the top of my head, I can't think of anything like just... Yeah, we haven't really had anything crazy. It's
You're
all
going to
been
get a
pretty...
nasty email from him next week.
Yeah, thank you for opening this floodgate. Yeah.
'Cause we had somebody come in wanting to do a porn podcast with
Yeah.
us. So
How do
that's
you
kind
do
of
a
what
I'm
porn
actually-
podcast?
Yeah, that's interesting.
it was going to be like. The host would watch a specific video
During
They'd-
the podcast.
No, beforehand.
Oh.
And then they'd come in and talk about it and like give it ratings, like whether or not it was this or that, or it was like,
Oh, that's interesting.
there's nothing like it out there. It could be interesting,
Yeah.
but it was like,
Yeah,
There's
that's
probably a
crazy.
reason there's nothing like that. out
yeah.
there,
I mean,
though.
we had like been a company for like not even 8 months. I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't know if I want that. It was like our first big like
Yeah,
push that's
no.
not ours.
Yeah,
So
definitely
it's
not.
like-
No, I caution you against that for sure.
Yeah.
No, we haven't. I am surprised that we haven't gotten any requests like that, but we really haven't.
Yeah,
it's been
Pornhub's
pretty-
going to be getting a hold of you next week.
They'll give us a call.
So, what's the biggest like, let's say, hurdle that you've had to overcome in the past 7 years, from like whenever you started to now? Like, what's the biggest thing that you've faced as a company?
Mic overboard.
I'm good. I got it.
If you just keep the microphone like
I was trying
pointed
to
towards, are you good?
it.
But
All right, I'm good.
As far as hurdles, I think for me, The biggest hurdle is how to deal with downtime in a business. And specifically, I talked about that 5-year thing where if you get past 5 years, you're probably, on track to stay open and stay a business. But like, yeah, there's a lot of throttling that happens when you start a business. And I was not prepared. I might have been a little too overconfident with how good the company was going to do. And so dealing with, those months or weeks where you're expecting work or you don't understand why you're not getting work and trying to figure out what to do to fill that void. And I know for me early on, there was like a lot of panic that filled that void. Is like, oh, I got to call everybody that I know that I've ever done a video. Yeah, I'm never going to do another video. And over the years, I've learned that that's just part of what, that's part of being in business. You're going to have high times, you're going to have low times. And lately, thankfully, it's been a little bit more of medium time, like across the board. We've just been very consistent, which is great, where we want to be. But yeah, just how to deal with that kind of stuff. I mean, that's a huge hurdle because a lot of people, they either want to quit or, like I said, they fill it with panic. And decisions made out of panic are never good decisions. And you end up lowering prices, going, bugging clients that would probably come back and work with you in a year if you'd leave them alone or just anything like, So yeah, for me personally, it was like filling those times and like figuring out, what do I need to do? I'm not getting work. What do I need to be focusing on? I think that was really a huge hurdle. And then I think company-wise, as far as video production goes, I really think the education thing was a hurdle for us. Just figuring out that clients needed that extra time and needed that extra explanation. It wasn't enough to just say, oh, we're a video production. I didn't tell them what they needed to know about why our product was important, why they should spend money on it, why it's an investment. That's another topic that we talk about a lot with clients. And so, yeah, just that hurdle of figuring out how we educate our clients. Because, a lot of people, when you're good at something or you're in a certain field, you understand it, but it's hard to explain it to other people.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we all kind of had to add that element to what we do, and like, oh, we actually need to, verbally converse with people about why what we do is important.
Doing what you're doing every day, it don't understand what you're doing.
We talk in a different language to those people. So yeah, I think business wise, that was one of the bigger hurdles, is figuring out where along the line that education piece comes in, and then kind of how to use it to manage client expectations, bring on new clients, all that kind of stuff. It's just been a whole process. And I mean, really, over the last 2 years, I think we've really honed in on it a little bit better. But before that, it was like, try something, didn't work, try this, it kind of worked, try this, oh, that worked really well. And like, we're just putting, pieces on as we go and kind of building it out, trial and error style. But I think that was one of the bigger hurdles. Yeah.
I think the worst thing about like owning a business where you're trying to like sell like a product like you do or like we do is going into a meeting, which is this happened with the last people that we met with, and they have a question that you never thought of and you don't have an answer for it.
Right.
And you're just like, shit, maybe I don't know enough. And it makes you look like you don't know what you're doing. And it's like,
you really, you quickly got to learn how to think on your feet.
And it's embarrassing because you're like, oh, why don't I have this information to give to you? Like,
this is my job, man. Did I miss something? Like, no, definitely. Yeah, there are those times.
So never go into a business meeting just by yourself. Take somebody else, because it's so much easier to play off of the other person. If neither of you know, or maybe the other person does and you don't. So, so me and my brother, when we do it, we go, because he's the business side and I'm like the audio side, so I can explain things that he doesn't know. He can explain things that I don't know, so it makes it way easier.
Well, and the same goes like with Justin. He is such a technical mind when it comes to filmmaking. So he has his master's degree in cinematography. He went to actually London and got that degree. And so he has a grasp on filmmaking that I don't think I'll ever totally achieve, because he just has a mass amount of technical knowledge. And I'm really good with the clients. So that's like one of the early things with us that worked really well, is he could, one, explain things in great depth and detail about what we were doing and why we were doing it, but also give that, the client the reassurance, or even stop us from making a mistake because I didn't know, what I was getting into, or, so the technical side, he had it covered. And then I've always been really comfortable with the clients. So it's been, like you said, it's a really good tandem that I would not have probably survived without him, like I'm sure. And so, you always need that. So
what is your favorite kind of video to do?
So I really love being in the commercial space. Again, this is another thing that me and Justin butted heads with when we first became business partners, because he was trained as a narrative filmmaker. His goal was to be a DP in Hollywood films. Like that was his trajectory. And I always have had an interest in branding and how it works, how they create this brand and then continue to tell stories, whether it be in video or audio form or written format, but still keep that consistent brand format and move it forward. So I've always loved that space. And so I think what happened was with me and Justin, we've kind of collided in the sense that he has some of his love of telling a story and having a narrative has bled over into my brand side and vice versa. And so now, like when we approach a brand, it's not like, oh, how do we, market this bottle of water? It's like, okay, we've got a bottle of water. They have a brand, but how do we tell a story with that brand
How
and
do we make this interesting?
and collab that in, or combine that together rather. And so that's my favorite part about the video process, because that is a key cornerstone of every video we do, is one, humanizing things as much as possible,
right,
because so many people miss that element, and then two, how do we tell a story? There's a story no matter what brand, company, service, product you're talking about.
The beer one I watched was so cool.
Yeah, how do you
drink beer, and I love that video.
How do you get there with that? And even so they're a beverage distributor, and that was kind of a head scratcher for us, because we didn't even know what a beverage distributor did before we had that meeting with them. Mm-hmm. So after sitting down and figuring out where they worked in the chain of, like, everybody has seen a beer, drank a beer, like how does that get to where you are able to buy it? And so sitting down with them and being like, guys, what do you think about telling the story of how this beer got made all the way till it got to the bar or grocery store, because you guys are pivotal in that process. Right. And they loved it because it really showed what they're good at in every aspect, not just the middle warehouse part that everybody sees them as. And so that is I don't know that I have a specific favorite type of video that we do, but that's my favorite part of making that video, is sitting down and saying, here's the client, here's their branding, how do we tell this story, and how do we get as creative as possible, and really push the creative envelope too.
There's a dog upstairs.
Gotcha.
Sorry.
No, you're good. I was just making sure.
The house is crumbling.
Yeah. And really I even make our clients not uncomfortable, but like push them outside of their creative comfort zone. Because they're not always comfortable with creative ideas when it comes. Sometimes they have a set video idea, or they have a set idea about the way their product should be shown. And that's another thing that we've just emphasized the longer we've been in business and the more confident we got, is that we're experts in our field. Right. And when you hire us, part of what you're paying for is for us to come in and say, that's a bad idea. Well, let's do it a different way. We're not saying we understand your brand better, but we understand how to tell the story you're trying to tell better. And so really coming to that connection with the client has been amazing for the most part, because once you get over that hump and you kind of push them out and they see, we see what you were trying to do, then it's freedom. Like, there's so much freedom, because they're like, okay, cool, you have free reign. That worked out great. That was awesome. And so, that part of it is my favorite part of making any videos, that brainstorming time where you've already met with the client, you understand what they're trying to accomplish, and we get to infuse the creativity into it.
It's a reality.
It's really fun.
Yeah, that's cool.
Because that's where anything can happen. I mean, we flooded a basement last year, full on flooded the whole basement for a shoot, and that's on
purpose.
Yes.
Okay.
No, and that's the cool. That's like we did that because we decided this worked well with the story. Can we flood a basement? The client's like, sure, but whatever. And it's like, oh, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What was the company that you did that for?
So that was actually for the city of Fairmont. They installed the new water meters that are Wi-Fi that you can connect to on your computer and kind of get real updating time of like how much water you're using.
Oh, wow.
So
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, it's really cool. So you can log on I think it's citywide definitely by now. So you can log on, find your address, and you can get texts like every day. You can get text about how much water you're using. So that way, like if you're on a trip, beforehand, if your basement flooded, you wouldn't know for 30 days or until you got back from the trip. They'd send a letter like 60 days later or whatever. And so with this, it's like it keeps that from happening because it's like, oh, our water flow's a little high. I know I'm not home. What's the deal? Call, and there's less damage. So the video that we did was showing a couple coming home from vacation, and they walked downstairs and it was like their basement was just flooded. Wow. And so it's cool because you like dream that up. And then the client's like, sounds good. We see your vision. Do it. Let's find a basement to flood. And you're like, whoa, this is real. Cool. I love it. So
how'd you have to like, I mean, to get a basement to flood, like what did
Well, so what we did is we only needed a section of it. So we found a house that was just finished in construction. It was a concrete basement, and we partitioned off a segment of the basement that we needed. They built retaining walls around certain parts of it, sandbagged it, and then the city came in and filled it up for us,
so
like a big swimming pool. Yeah, it was cool. They like saw the vision and how it fit in, because the rest of the video is about talking about how to use this system. And our point was, you really need this little narrative in the beginning to really catch people, because if you just jump right into how do you use your Wi-Fi water meter, nobody's paying attention. So it's like we really need that. And it moved the story forward too, because the characters in the story found there's a guy in their basement that when they came home, and he like guided them through the rest of the process of setting up their water meter. And so that was like the catalyst. They like went downstairs and their basement's flooded, and there's this guy like sitting down there, and he's like, hey, I can tell you how this doesn't need to happen ever again. So it's just fun. It's just cool stuff.
That's really cool.
And like with the lottery, one of the shots that we did, we were at Cass Railroad down there in southern West Virginia, and it's like I got to play with trains all day. Like I got to tell them to go forward, back up, blow the whistle. It's like this is like my kid's dream, right? But it's all part of that creative process, because we told them, this is what we need to do, and they said cool. They called Cass up. We got a crew down there. They gave us 2 trains for the day, and that's the kind of stuff. It's like this is like real now, and we have enough. A large enough portfolio that more and more clients are trusting us even more, and we get to push that boundary even more and see like what we can do, and it's just exciting, because who knows?
So you feel like you're getting that freedom more often than not?
Oh yeah, for sure. The clients are getting bigger, our name's getting out there more, and the freedom is there because we're now getting known for pushing that creative. So it's like, oh, these are the guys that do, they go over the top with the creative side of stuff. And so when we sit down, when we talk to a client or we pitch an idea, it's like no longer is it like, would you guys like let us flood a basement? It's like, hey, we already did this and it worked really well, so we're going to do this crazy thing, and because this worked.
We're dropping an elephant out of a plane.
Like, cool, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the next step. So it's like we've gotten that ability to kind of push that, and clients are like, cool, it's worked before, you guys do good work, we'll sign off on it. And it's just like, yeah, there's no limit to that. And that's what's exciting to me, like being a company in West Virginia and pushing those boundaries. And like when we get told like, you guys look like you're from New York, or you guys look like you're out of LA, that's like that's what the goal is to have that national look to everything that we do, because it's achievable. It all comes down to planning. That's the piece that so many people miss, and we're able to bring that to the table with that creativity and all that planning. So,
now, have you gotten any clients from out of state that have asked you to do stuff? Yeah,
we've gotten a few. We're actually in 3 weeks. We're going to Winchester, Virginia. We have a client there, Melnor Sprinklers. If you've been to Lowe's or Home Depot, you've probably seen their products. They're a national brand.
Oh wow!
It was happenstance, I forget, because Justin had them as a client before he came on, and we work with them every year. We do product videos. Like last year we did a bunch of Amazon review videos for them, and so we have them as an out-of-state client. And then we've done some other work. The year before last was an awesome year because we actually got hired. We did a documentary in Bolivia, so that was really, really cool. And then I was filming in Canada later that year. And so we do sporadic traveling when we're able. Oh, and we also went to North Carolina and filmed at the BMW plant there. And that was through like Vox. So that was really cool. So it's like it's here and there we get to travel out of state, but not super often. Yeah, it just depends.
Yeah, because my next question was going to be like, how far are you willing to travel? But obviously you've gone.
Yeah, we're pushing. We'll push it. Yeah, as far. Yeah, whatever. Though. Yeah, we always stress that like we'll go anywhere, and that's another cool thing about having the team we have is we can pile up in a truck and we can be anywhere. We're really mobile. and I think the reason we haven't worked more out of the state is a part of my process with clients is I hate the cold calling and like the trying to get leads or, lead generators or anything like that. Like I'm very adamant about the handshake and the networking face to face, or seeing our product and calling us because of that. And so because of that, our growth outside of the state's been a little slower because I don't just want to cold call people in Columbus or in Pittsburgh or in Kentucky and try to get work out of the state. I want it to be very organic, and I want it to be because I met somebody in Pittsburgh and we did a job and then another. So it's like it's the slow route, but to me it creates these clients that we're going to work with long term, and that's what we talk about with everybody when we sit down. Like I'm not interested in the one-off video. If that's all you need, that's fine, but I'm interested in working with you 10 years down the road. That's our goal, is to make you so happy and really hit the nail on the head with the creative so that you'll keep coming back. And so that has, I wouldn't say hindered, but it slowed the out-of-state growth just because I need it to be organic, or else I don't really want it necessarily. And so all of our work out of state has been very organic. It's been people we've known, people we've met, people that have seen our work, we've gotten referred, and so that's perfect to me. And whenever, we'll keep doing those things, and hopefully we will work out of the state more, and be able to, because we're close to so many great markets. Like I said, Columbus, Pittsburgh, Kentucky, we're 6 hours from New York. Well, the East Coast wise, we're positioned to be anywhere in a day, basically. And so we really stress that with people. Like we can be your East Coast crew if you need something. And so I think it'll come. It's just a slow process. But
that's got to make your customers feel really important.
Yeah.
Like that gives them a sense of this is really personal to me, and really, I matter to them. I'm not just another client.
Yeah. And that's another thing we really stress is like, even like going back to the creative side of things, like we have not argued with clients, but we have pushed back with clients on creative and explained to them this isn't because we just want to be a jerk or don't want to work with you. It's because we're so proud of our creative that we both came up with isn't good enough for us. Like we don't want to put our name on that.
Right.
So it's, and so it's been a really interesting thing because that has happened with quite a few clients. They it clicks that the creative matter. It's not just a job for us.
Right.
Like that creative with each job is very personal. And there's some jobs that are more interesting than others, but at the end of the day, like our product is the most important thing to us. And so like each video gets our care and attention and time, and it really matters to the clients. They can see it, in the long haul, that like we care almost as much as they do about the video, and that really goes a long way with them. Yeah.
Have you ever had any businesses that you've been working with, whenever you tell them that like it needs to be like this way, have they just backed out completely?
There have been a few clients that you get to that phase where it's like you're kind of laying down the ground rules, and they're like, this isn't really what we want. And we've even actually told some clients like, hey, we think you would work better with these guys, like, because that's another thing, like we're really collaborative in nature, and so if we don't think something's going to work, or they're just kind of a different speed, or they need a different type of creative, like we're more than happy to hand them off, because I'd rather them be happy and get what they want rather than slogging through a project with them where nobody's happy on either side. But really everybody that's kind of pushed back has actually come around eventually and called back and been like, hey, we thought about it. Yeah, most people. Just because we put a lot of time into the ground rules that we lay. So initially they might not take offense to it, but they might kind of bristle at like, oh, we're pushing back and you guys should just be yes men, we're paying you. But most of them have come back around and been like, we thought about it. The creative's good. You guys had good reasons for everything. We're gonna go through with this, and it's great because, like I said, you're getting rid of all the barriers in the beginning and kind of breaking down all that stuff. So there's they know how we work. We know how they work, and it's all out on the table in the beginning. And we actually had an experience earlier this year. We shot a regional Super Bowl ad for Cabell Huntington Hospital. Actually, that's how I heard about you guys, was the Fools.
Adam McHenry?
Yes, Adam came on here and was talking about that. And so when we pitched them, it was such a quick turnaround. They called us December 26th and said, we need to have a commercial for the Super Bowl by February 5th or whenever, and that's a really fast turnaround, thinking that we didn't even have any creative at that point. So we came up with some creative, pitched it to them. They loved it. then they came back to us and said, hey, we talked to everybody and we think we're going to kind of like merge, excuse me, merge some of your, I need to take a drink real quick. Sorry.
It's okay.
They said, we're going to merge some of your creative and make this new idea. So I told him, I was like, hey, I'm going to call you back. I'm going to talk to the team and I'll get back with you. And I got off the phone and I was like, this isn't good. Like, this ruins most of all the motivation that we had in each of these creative spots. And so we made a decision. We're like, this is a huge job. It's a huge client, but we're gonna stand on our principles. We're gonna stick to our guns here. And so we called him back and said, we're not gonna do that. Like, that, it makes the commercial bad.
Don't sell out.
It makes what we're doing not as worthwhile and not as good. And she was like, I really appreciate that. And so she got off the phone, she called it, and like 15 minutes go by and we're all just sweating. Like, did we make the worst decision ever? She called back and she was like, everybody's really appreciative that you were that like gung-ho about your creative to stick to it. And they're like, green light, we're good to go. You guys get this creative, we'll make it work. And so it was like, it was a risk, but it was one that we feel like we're willing to take and kind of really hammer that point home, because at the end of the day, that creative is that important to us. So, yeah.
So I was working with Adam. I've known him for a long time.
Adam's amazing. Yeah, he was in the water meter spot that I talked about.
Oh, really?
He was in that, and that's kind of how we first worked with him. And then we knew immediately when we had 3 different concepts for the hospital spot, and when they picked the kind of more comedic one, like, we knew immediately that we wanted him. He's so fun to work with on set. And yeah, I love it because all the guys from the Fearless Fools, anybody that you work with, they have such an ability to get on set and riff, and like kind of we can let them go. Like, I have an idea as a director of what I want to do, but then it's like at the end of the takes, I've gotten what I want. It's like, Adam, let's just play around. Like, you just give me some responses off the cuff, and it's always so much fun. And they're just so good at that improv stuff that I just love it. I love working with all of them. Yeah. So
now once you mentioned that, I feel like in the episode where we did the Fools, I feel like he mentioned Mountain Craft Productions.
Yeah, he did. He did. Yeah, well, because somebody sent it to me and they're like, listen to this part. Because I knew I'd heard you guys' podcast before. They were like, listen to this point in the message or in the podcast. So I turned it on. I was in the hotel room. We were working on something and it started listening to it. And they like started talking about this hospital commercial. And I didn't know it was Adam at first. And he like started explaining. I was like, wait, that was our production. And then he was like Mountain Craft Productions. I was like, oh, that's awesome. Yeah. That was really cool. So yeah.
I grew up with Adam.
Yeah.
Like, not grew up with, but we all went to the same church camp and all that stuff together. Yeah. So yeah, he's always been kind of out there.
It was neat. So, and then like on that hospital when we had Lauren, and I guess they've been performing together for a long time. And so they had such a great chemistry on set. It was just so much fun to kind of let them play around in the scene and kind of just see what we got. And we used quite a bit of what they did in some of it, because they get a sense for like the comedic timing and all that. And that was really important in that spot. So we just let them have at it. And it was great.
So as far as, like you said, you all kind of work on the creative side of things. And you direct it whenever you're there?
Yeah, so that was another evolution of the whole, like, just figuring out what being a video production company was. In the beginning, I did everything. Then Justin came on board, and then we each had 6 hats a piece, and then Mikey came on, Joe. And through that process, it's like kind of we've gotten to figure out what we're good at, and 2, like what we want to do in the creative space. And that has been probably one of my the best things about all of it so far is like we've slowly slotted ourselves into what we're really good at, and then we can crew up for everything else that we don't necessarily like doing but had to do in the beginning. And so directing was one of those things that like I thought it sounded cool, but I didn't understand the whole logistics behind what a director did and like why are they so prominent, what goes into being a director. And the same with like Justin, like he was trained as a DP, but he's also really good in post-production. Mikey came on board and he can edit, shoot, and do sound. And so like what the current slate right now is I usually direct stuff unless Justin wants to take a stab at it. Justin is almost always behind the camera because there's nobody better. He's just the best. And then Mikey comes in and Mikey helps on the pre-production side. He does a lot of producing for us, which is amazing. And then he's kind of slotted himself in as our editor. So he edits everything, and then Justin kind of finishes it out, does all the coloring, the audio fine tuning, all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of our pipeline. But any given shoot, it can be different. Like on the shoot we did last week, I basically was like Justin's assistant with the camera. Mikey was running a camera. There was the agency was directing, so they didn't need me as a director. So like wherever we need to slot in, we can. But yeah, that's kind of where we sit naturally if we get our choice. Yeah. So.
And do you do any storyboarding, like pre-production wise, like? Because whenever we did our music video, like he did like a storyboard, and it was all just stock images he sent me, just like really quick to kind of give me an idea. Do you do any of that just to kind of get?
We have done some storyboarding. It depends on the client and what they want. We don't love to storyboard just because it's kind of hard, and unless you're a really good artist or you have really good clip art to build a good storyboard stuff. So what we do is actually we call them mood boards. So it's like we'll go find stock images that evoke the right emotion. So like this color looks right, or this setting looks right, and we'll kind of build together this mood board and say like this is the feeling we're going for. But we have done storyboards before when the clients needed it. It's just a little tougher, and again we try to do everything at a certain quality, so it's like it kind of can get a little pricey to do those storyboards if you're going to do it like on a consistent basis. So traditionally we try to do the mood boards, write scripts, and then try to verbally explain, kind of visually what we're trying to think with the spot. So, but it depends on the client, whatever they want.
So for a 30-second commercial, from the very first time you speak to the client until it's completely finished, how long do you, on average, do you spend on one of these? I'm sure it varies, but
yeah, I mean, it can be like a month to a month and a half. From everything.
For 30 seconds?
For 30
That's
seconds,
crazy.
yeah. So like the lottery is a good example. So that was 3 30-second spots. We were in pre-production starting in the end of August. We were filming mid-September. We had 4 dedicated days of production on set with the full 55 crew. And then Justin and Mikey and I did pickup shots after that. And I think we delivered all 3 of those in December. So that's a longer time period, but that's one of the larger things we've done. So that kind of puts it into perspective. Like there's so many different steps that go in, especially when you're handling all the creative, which is something we really enjoy doing. But from that initial conversation to the end, when you hand it to the client, there's a lot of stuff that goes in between there.
That's and what it sounds like.
It takes time. And thankfully most of the clients, like we've done a really good job about, we can kind of estimate project to project how long it's going to take, and we've done better about giving them a little bit longer timeline than even we anticipate. That way everybody's happy.
Oh, yeah.
Because before when I first started, I had a really bad habit of like overpromising and
Telling
like, I'll get it done tomorrow, and then I'm the guy texting like it's not going to be done tomorrow. And so that's another thing Justin brought in. We under promise and over deliver. That's the goal with every client, is to like say this will take a month, and then if it's done in 2 weeks, they're like stoked. But then if it's done in a month, they're also happy.
Have you had any like really, really terrible clients that have bugged you about it, like every day?
No, again, it comes down to that.
Are you getting these like unicorn clients?
No, it's no. It's all about this communication that I'm talking about with every client. Like we get all those red flags up front.
Yeah.
And so it has saved us from so many nightmares that you hear about other people with traditional clients. Like, oh, we had this terrible client, or this went wrong. We talk probably more than any other company that you're going to work with up front before we ever do a single thing. And I think that saved us so much because we know the client knows us, and like there's so many things that you get out of the way that most people are like, oh, hi, I'm Bob, we're going to do this video, cool, sign here. And then you get into production, it's like, this is going to cost more, or I'm not happy, or like we get all that out of the way before anything starts. And so I think that's a huge reason as to why we don't have any real client nightmare stories, is because we do all that communicating up front. We have contracts.
That's really impressive everything's for 7 years and not having any
nightmares. And it's like, it's one of those things where I hammer away at people, communication. That is the cornerstone. Like internally and externally with our clients, like that is the cornerstone of everything we do, is making sure we talk, we communicate, we ask all the questions. Don't be afraid to ask a question. I'm bad at that. Justin, that's another thing he's really good at, is he'll just fire away at all these questions that I feel uncomfortable with. But it helps because then there's no awkwardness moving forward and you didn't miss something, and so I think that is what has contributed to that success there. So, but no real nightmare, thankfully.
Yeah.
So it's been good.
We're going to just ruin your life with this. Like, we're going to jinx everything.
Yeah, we've been thinking about as a company here doing video ads because obviously, it's something that now that we're ready to, kind of go out and get clients coming in because we've got our Time magazine article coming out like next month or something like that.
That's exciting.
Times West Virginia. Virginia, not like Times New York yet, but
I was like, what?
It's coming out. So I think we're finally ready to like do that. And I'm going to talk to my brother about it and then reach out to you guys and see about that because it'd be fun.
That'd be awesome.
And I'm really interested to see what you guys would do visually for a podcast company because it's like, obviously you need to show like the behind the scenes stuff, all that stuff. But like what I'm kind of curious about what kind of story you could come up with it because I've thought about it and I'm like, I'm not good with
Bring
visual.
Jed and his 5 dogs in here.
I love those challenges though when we have a client or a subject like so we just wrapped post-production on some work with the West Virginia Supreme Court of Appeals. And the video we did with them it's not a PSA, but it's like an explainer video. If you've experienced domestic violence, what are the steps you need to take action on that and kind of get out of that situation? And so when you're faced with that as your subject and your motivator, that is not an entertaining subject in any sense of the word, but it needs to be watchable. Yeah. Like, so that, I shouldn't say fun, but that was a really challenging one that I think we all enjoyed, like jumping in and kind of like figuring out how do we make this watchable, but also, not too lighthearted. This is a very serious matter. This could save lives. And so I love those challenges where you're faced with something that's like, how are you going to make a video about this? I think it's always really fun to me to kind of dive in and figure out, well, do you get abstract with it? There's different avenues to take with stuff like that. And it's fun. Yeah. It's exciting.
Yeah. It's like our music video that we did. It was like the whole, all the scenes and stuff were kind of my idea. And then he the producer, the director, he went off of that, but he kept pretty close to my idea, and it's not going to be out till like the end of July.
Okay.
We still have to film like a little bit more of it, but I'm worried because I'm not good visually that it's going to suck. That it's just not going to look how I want it to look. He showed me some clips that look really cool, but overall, the message that I'm trying to get across in it, I'm really hoping that it conveys that just through the video itself. So, because we worked with him and we worked with a dance company out of Clarksburg.
Oh, cool.
And we had, dance coordinated and all this story points going on and stuff. So I'm hoping that it, comes together well.
Yeah, that's always exciting and nerve-wracking when you're looking at creative and thinking like, is this going to translate on the screen? Like I see it in my head, but like, are we going to be able to get to that point? Yeah. And there's always that, like when you unveil it and you get that first rough cut and you're like, whew, like it all worked out. Like we got what we needed. This is great. Yeah. It's always fun. Like
so other than the West Virginia lottery one, which video could you pinpoint like a very favorite video
This is super easy. So we did a video for Choose West Virginia that came out. It came out at the end of last year. And it was just one of those things where we got the RFP and basically the RFP was like, hey, we have this script and we really want to like tell a love story to West Virginia. And we were like, yes. So we were so excited to jump on that. And so it was through the leadership class of like Leadership West Virginia from last year. And they had this script and they're like, this is going to be our class project. Like we want to start this brand called Choose West Virginia and explain why people should choose to live here, raise a family here, work here, come here, visit here. And so we got this script and the script was really well written. And then we just got to like fill in these pieces about like why we love West Virginia and what makes us want to stay here, live here.
Romanticizing the state.
Yeah. And it's like, it was really cool. And it got like, I don't know, like 70,000 like organic views when it got released. And then it's won Addies and it's won Telly Awards and it just won some Crystal Awards at the PRSA Awards. And so it's like, it's still getting pushed out there.
And how long ago was this?
I think we released in September, maybe October of last year, something like that. Yeah. And yeah, it still has a ton of traction and a lot of people are like, oh, you guys did the Choose video. We still get like we got a lot of name recognition from that. But I mean, overall, the reason it's my favorite is because we got to tell a little bit of that story about why we love West Virginia, and that's like an internal passion of ours about how can we do anything possible to change the narrative and help write a positive narrative for West Virginia, because
because there's
it's
so many
so
horrible
negative
stigmas around West Virginia.
Yeah, it's terrible. And I'm not a native, so I've only lived here 10 years. And so like I have a little bit of a different perspective, but it's like my goal is to just show people what they have here and show how many like gems and how many amazing businesses and amazing people and amazing, like we all know we have the sites. I love it. I love living here because of that. But like there's so much more even than that in these communities around the state. And so when you get paid to travel around the state and shoot beautiful images of why you love to be here and why the people here are amazing, that's dream job right there.
To
That's
do
what I
something
love
that
it.
you are like to explain to people why you love something that you actually do love.
Yeah, and it's just neat. Like I was telling the guys, like we're hopefully helping push a narrative forward of an entire state, like not just a city, not just a business, like a whole state. There's not a lot of like young business owners that get to be, you know, kind of on that level and do that for their state and like really show why they care and why they want to be here. And it's like, I don't know, just sometimes we have to pinch ourselves and be like, this is awesome. It's really cool. So it's fun.
Yeah, I think it, like from being out of state and living here for 10 years and you not leaving is actually more impressive than people that just have been here their whole lives.
And have never known anything else.
Yeah, exactly. Because, you know, something has kept you here.
Right.
So, you know, like my family is from like the Buchanan area. I was born in Washington State, moved to upstate New York. My dad was in the Air Force, so we got transferred down there. Once he retired or left, moved back down here, I was, 10, 11, something like that. So I've been down here most of my life.
Right.
But I'm technically from here, and that's all I really know.
Yeah.
But somebody that can come here, you know, how old are you?
I'm 29.
29. So whenever you're 19, coming here and then staying here.
Right.
So
it was one of those things. It was I didn't plan to be here. My family moved here, and I was I was born and raised in Missouri. That's my home state. And so when we were in Alabama for like a span of 4 years while I was in high school, and my dad's a doctor, he got a job here, and they moved, and they were like, we're moving to West Virginia. I was like, where? What West Virginia? Where's West Virginia? I don't know anything. I don't know.
Near Richmond?
Most
Exactly.
people say that.
And so it's like, they were like, come visit, see our house, like just kind of visit a little bit, and then you can move back to Missouri. That's where you know everybody. Well, I came here, I met my wife. That's the first thing that happened. And then after we got married, I really did just fall in love with the state, and most of it is because of the people. And it's taken me a few years to like solidify like what it is I love about the state, but it really is the people, like the hardworking, resilient, never giving up. It's a unique, welcoming, inviting, hospitable. It's like
proud.
Yeah, and like you hear about Southern hospitality. I lived in Alabama, and there is that. I think West Virginia is more hospitable than the South. Like you just, I can't even explain it. Like you can walk up to anybody at any time, ask for help, ask for directions, like chat with them, ask to use like whatever you need. There's no like, I don't know. There's not just that stranger factor with most people. You just kind of feel like all like family. And so like I fell in love with that aspect of it. And then I realized, well, man, the rest of the U.S. does not see West Virginia that way. All they identify us as hillbillies, as water crisis, as coal, as the opioids. Like those are the things. State. Exactly. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, that's all if they don't connect us to Virginia.
Doesn't even know that West Virginia exists.
Yeah, and so it's like, man, this is what why is this narrative that way? And so like that's just kind of been a personal passion of mine, is just like trying to do whatever we can to sort of push that narrative the other way and kind of pull back the veil and show them like what we have here, and more importantly empower the people that are here. That's a thing I talk about with a lot of people, is like if we spend as much time trying to bring people into West Virginia and took that time and put it into the people that are already here and like showed off what they're doing, we would have something really special. But for whatever reason, because we're in West Virginia, if you do something cool, it won't get publicized. It won't get pushed out there. If it's positive, it's probably not breaking out, of that negative narrative. And so it's like, I'm tired of it. And I want to push that forward, and show what we have here and what we have to offer. And it's been exciting because we keep getting to be involved in more and more things that kind of get to tell this story on a bigger and bigger stage. We would do a lot of work with nonprofits, the Choose West Virginia video. And it's like, this is neat. Like, we're hopefully affecting like long-term change. Because that's the other thing. Everybody wants change, but they want it immediately. Like, they want to see change tomorrow. And so like I'm changing West Virginia so my kids have a better state to grow up in. That's my goal. If it doesn't change while I'm alive, that's not awesome, but like, it's okay. As long as I'm pushing that in the right direction and there's some motion that way, that's all I can ask for. And a lot of people don't have that long-term mentality. They want happen tomorrow. Like, they want to say something positive and then all this positive change.
Can't watch it happen, then they assume it's never going to.
Yeah, and then they get jaded, and then that's not fun. So that's tough. But West Virginia has so many cool things to offer.
I'm from a really small town. I'm from Doddridge County.
Okay,
And Morgantown was just terrifying to me. I live in Morgantown now. And like, in my head, Morgantown was like New York City. Like, I had never left my little tiny town. And I was like, man, I don't know how people live in that big city. Like, and then I moved to Morgantown because I got tired of doing the exact same thing every day. And I was like, I want to see what else is out there. And I got to Morgantown and I got to watch all of these small business owners and these people that are really pushing for that town. And it's like, there's such a sense of community there in that big town, and everybody loves each other, and they're sincerely trying to make it a better place for us to live, and a better place to grow your business, and a better place to raise your kids. And
and the exciting thing that I've seen, I'd say in the past like 5 years, is the age group that's doing that is getting younger and younger.
Absolutely.
And like, it's not these older established business people starting businesses or doing whatever. It's these younger people that's like, I don't care. I'm going to start this business. I don't care if anybody says it doesn't belong in West Virginia or it's not going to work. Like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to make it work.
See what happens.
And it's like, it's so cool to see, because there's so many younger and younger people are doing that. And that's really what we need. Like, we need that infusion of youth to like understand their worth and do their thing and be awesome at it, and then we all need to support it. And so it's exciting to see that, because I really do feel like all across the board the ages are coming down for things that are going on, and it's exciting to see that, because that's the next generation that's going to hopefully continue to push this state in a positive direction.
It's the generation that's realizing that they don't have to walk straight out of a high school and into a college, that there are options in between. And that they can they can use those options and grow their small businesses and start things from scratch and
and
try
now
things.
Now more than ever you have access to everything. It's all at your fingertips. It's really just about having determination and a little bit of consistency, and you can do whatever you want. You really can. It's true.
But you guys said that, I was sitting here thinking about all the businesses that we've interviewed on here, and I think there's only been like one person, and we've been recording for a year now. There's only been one business, I think, that we've interviewed where he's been over 40. Everybody else has been like late 20s, early 30s, like younger people. So now that you say that,
it's like a trend. And even I mean, you see it across the board, like even in politics, like people are younger and younger, just they're fed up with the way things are. They're whatever community, town, area they're in, they're just like, I don't care, I'm going to do this thing, I'm going to follow my dreams, I'm not going to let
you're 29
history,
and you've been running a successful business for 7 years. Like, that's really impressive. That's a long time to be your age and doing that.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of awesome people my age and even younger. Like Mikey is a perfect example. When we brought him on, he's turning 21 in August, like this August.
Oh wow!
And it's like, when we met him and started working with him, I first didn't know how young he was, but his work was like so fantastic, and it was like, we need to work with this kid, and he has just like grown way beyond his years in the few years that we've been working with him, and it's so exciting, because that's a consistent trend that I'm seeing across everywhere. Like, people are giving younger people chances.
If you stop telling people that they can't until they're a certain age, or they can't until they've done this, like, stop setting these markers for people and just watch what they can do.
Yeah. Or you can't because you're in West Virginia.
Yeah.
That's a super like common, like I talk about like a Stockholm syndrome sort of thing. Like it's always been this way. So I'm never going to do anything better. Like my family's always done this, or West Virginia has always been this or whatever. And it's like they put all these fake barriers in their way. And then those barriers become a reality because they don't cross them ever. And then you just continue that cycle that we see. All this negativity, like can't wait to get out, can't wait to get my kids out, whatever. You know, there's always grass is always greener. Sort of
I had
thing.
that mentality when
Everybody,
I was younger.
I mean, anybody that I've talked to, I think that is from here and was born here has at one point had that I need to get out. But the really interesting thing is there's a lot of those people that are like, at certain point, I need to get back. Like I'm missing. There's something missing.
I've had friends that have left and they're like, I need to come home.
I need to come home. And it's not because where they are wasn't great that they moved to. It's just like there is something about this
like
state.
you don't know what you have till it's gone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and I talk about like your network and like your circle of influence too. And like when you leave a state that you've grown up in your whole life, you're leaving everything, but you are starting from, I don't even care if you have one friend or whatever you're moving to, you're starting from scratch. You are reinventing your entire circle of influence. And that's a lot of work and that's daunting, especially in a state where nobody cares about you. No family, no nothing. And so like, that is why it's so important to me, and that's why I'm not compelled to move, is that my family's here, like on both sides. My wife's family, my family, we're all here. I have a great base, a great circle of influence. I have a lot of friends, and that to me is worth way more than being in Georgia where the film industry's hot, or LA because it's popular to say you're from LA if you're in the film industry. It's like, I don't care. Like this is my home base. I'm much stronger here. I have more connections and I'm gonna make a go of it. And it's better all across the board. And you can say that about anybody looking to do something. One, if it's not here, why don't you make it a reality and make it be here?
Yeah, like I have a friend that she sings. She plays country music and she moved to Nashville. And she's like, now she's there and she's got a kid there and everything. But she's like, what? Why?
Yeah.
Why did I do this? Because now I'm like a little fish in a big pond and nobody cares about me because we're all doing the exact same thing.
Exactly.
And in West Virginia, people cared.
Right.
Like people supported me and that was a real thing. Like the love and support that I had there. And she's like, that doesn't exist in Nashville.
Yeah. And that's why a lot of people ask, like, why did you pick West Virginia, or why did you start this business here? And it's just because like I looked around and I realized if I went anywhere else that was popular, there are 100 of me in that same city vying for all the same jobs with all the same clients, and I don't really have anything that sets me apart. They're going to have the same equipment. They're probably going to have better education. They're going to have been doing film longer, whatever the case. And it's like, then I looked at West Virginia, and the negatives are there's not a lot of high-end production that happens in the state. That's what I was told. But I just flipped it on its head and said, this is a whiteboard. There isn't any, so why isn't there any? Let's reverse engineer this. And I wouldn't have it any other way. I mean, like, I love being here and starting something. And it took a long time. It took a lot of perseverance. There was a lot of times I wanted to give up. A lot of times I almost didn't think we were going to keep being in business. But that I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't like redo it, and even just in a more popular space, because it just, to me, that's more difficult. Like there are things that are easier because it's a production world and everybody gets it, but there's so much more competition. I don't know. It's just tough. Yeah. So I try to encourage any young person that I come across, so no matter what they're in, like seriously consider where you are right now, because if you have an idea and you don't see it in the entire state, think about being able to control an entire state in whatever you're doing, and you have that potential. If nobody's doing it, be the first one to do it. Take it over. Exactly. Yeah. So
we're trying here. I think there was one other podcast production company in West Virginia.
Really?
I haven't heard of anybody that like specializes in creating that podcast content.
I didn't even realize that, because I told you last time I'm new to the podcast thing. Like,
there's not a lot. I mean, like, so I was telling him before we got on this that my friend JD has a podcast that I was on, but he kind of focuses like on startups, but he just does it, like not offering it to other people. And I think it's a really cool thing to offer, because and I see marketability even in the commercial space, because this content's valuable. If you have stuff to talk about and you have things you want to say, like not everybody has the knowledge and the ability to set something up like this and record at a high quality. So I think it's awesome.
Yeah. So hopefully we can grow together. I want to, after I talk to my brother about it, I want to talk to you about some videos too.
That sounds good.
So is there anything else that you wanted to cover before we get wrapped up?
I I can't think of anything. I've really
I
enjoyed
think-
hanging out with you guys and talking. It's fun to talk to.
You were easy to talk to.
Yeah.
Good. That's good to hear. Yeah. Well, and I heard the podcast is like, oh, I want to like jump on there with those guys because what you guys are doing is is exactly what I'm talking about. You're in a community, you're bringing other people in that do other things, other business owners, other young people that are doing stuff and like highlighting them.
Yeah.
Because that's another thing people don't understand, like especially about a small town, is they expect if it's in the paper, if it's on Facebook, everybody knows about it, which is not true at all.
No.
And so what you guys are doing by bringing them on here and giving them another avenue to like talk about what they do, explain what they do in depth, I think it's fantastic. So
For free,
Yep.
which you don't ever
exactly.
get.
Yeah. So keep up the good work because it's amazing.
So where all can you be found?
Yeah.
So we have website, mtncraft.com. That's like got all of our about us. We have our demo reel on there, clients we've worked with. That's kind of like our main hub. We're on Facebook and Instagram. So those are our...
All right. We'll link all those in the description as well. So if you're interested, just click on those. So, so Ben, thank you for coming out today.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. It's fun.
Yeah. Thanks for not giving Ashley too much shit for her first interview.
No, she did great. I couldn't even tell. If you didn't tell me, I wouldn't have even known. So you did good.
You did a very good job.
Natural.
So, all right. Thanks again.
Cuts